you start to hear things in the media, and a lot of it's like the WFAN guys who just like to create headlines, and I've heard murmurings of Mets fans talking about it. Do you think New York can ever actually become a Mets town? Is it something you're like think could happen or potentially worried about?
Worried about? No. I just, and I don't live in the tri-state area, so I don't really have a good temperature for New York right now. But
MLB needs to put a third team in New York. I'm not even joking about that. I mean, how many soccer teams are in London? It's the same thing, guys.
Just because California has like 5 teams does not. I don't think. I think the one thing you can get Yankees and Met fans to agree on is that there shouldn't be a third team in New York.
No, I think we're good. I mean, maybe if we did get a third team, we could like combine forces and just hate on that third team together as Yankees and Mets fans together.
I mean, they would just put it in New Jersey and call them New York. So
yeah, I mean, that's just the Jets and Giants for you. But I mean, to answer your question, I think with how historical the franchise is, with all of the national coverage on the Yankees, I just find it really hard that it would become a Mets town. But all the power to Steve Cohen for spending the money and trying really building up the Mets hype. I see it. I definitely see it, but I just don't see them surpassing the Yankees.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just wanted to hear it from a Yankee perspective because I haven't before.
Yeah. No, I know you like Jazz. It's cool.
Ash, how do you feel about Jazz so far? What's your take on it? Are you in panic mode about him, or do you feel like he's this is as advertised? What's your thoughts?
I like Jazz. He's getting me some points in my fantasy league, so yeah, I'm all right with him.
All right.
I love Jazz, but I mean, I also, this is where my bias will show moments that I can be honest about is that, like, I'm a Caribbean guy and, like, I love emotional Caribbean players. Yeah, so for me, I roll with the punches there. I love guys who are emotional about baseball, and that extends to the guys who pimp home runs, the guys who, like, I'll throw this one of the Yankees fans' way. I was a Java Chamberlain guy. I love the
I was
Java
too.
Chamberlain
They screwed him up.
I was very upset as a Mets fan to watch them get such a guy like Java Chamberlain and then screw that up for me. I love Java Chamberlain. I know the Yankees have a reputation of being anti-fun because they're historical and they have all the, the heavy. No, man, let the guy have fun. But I love Jazz. I do think that culturally it's an interesting fit for the Yankees because, like, we've got a tough one, and I'll address what Kenny says there in a second. But it's a tough one because when an emotional player has a bad stretch, sometimes you see it in other parts of the play, and sometimes it gets magnified a little bit more because if a guy's going 0 for a couple days over and he's arguing balls and strikes, it's real easy for people to say, listen, shut up, sit down, play the game the right way, that type of stuff. So you do get a little bit more eyes on you when you're an emotional guy when it comes to baseball, and I think that's tough. But swinging around to what Kenny said, because I want to win 4 World Series in 5 years, then New York City will be a Mets town. So, addressing things that have happened in the last 25 years or so when some of the people who are listening to us were born, in terms of the way things are now, I don't think that New York will be a Mets town, but there is a building Mets culture for a couple of reasons. One is that, the Mets are fun and stupid, and a lot of people like when things are fun and dumb. I mean, we had a team last year that we've talked about this ad nauseum, but there was a goddamn Grimace seat in Citi Field spray painted purple. They had a Hawk Tua throwing out the first pitch. And yeah, so the Grimace seat is still there, right? This is the thing where, like, the Mets are fun in their own way, and that whimsy can attract people because, again, in contrast, the Yankees are the historical, staunch, like, they just allowed facial hair. They just decided to allow facial hair, for Christ's sake. They have always been
that's interesting because a lot of people think the facial hair thing has always been there, and it hasn't. It came in the late 70s with George Steinbrenner. Because there's pictures of plenty of guys before that with beards. So,
but
sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I just had to bring it to dispel one of the myths that the facial hair policy has always been there. So,
but there's one more thing. There's one more thing about the facial hair thing. You were always allowed to have a mustache, but you couldn't have a beard.
Heaven forbid a beard.
Yeah. I got stuff on my face, and my chin. That's too far. But the funny thing over the last 5 or 6 years is Giancarlo Stanton never really looked like he had facial hair, but always had the soul patch on his chin, and no one ever said anything about it.
It's true. Since the days of him being Mike Stanton, he's had this as a Marlins guy, and I have a very fun thoughts about Mike and Giancarlo Stanton, where I feel like he knows me personally because I screamed Mike and heckled him for about 7 innings straight once when he was with the Marlins. But it was great. He dropped the ball in right field, and all you could hear is just some idiot Caribbean guy, me, in the Shade Bridge area, just screaming, "Mike, I'm in your head, Mike!" But in terms of New York culture,
in the crowd there.
There are a few people who know me personally can attest to that story, because when he dropped the ball, there were a few sections that had believed that it was my fault, and I was very proud of that. But we were talking Mets town, Yankees town.